It's great to see you guys here. Great to see this big group. I'm Kelly Johnson. I'm president of the Confederation of Canadian Unions. And I got to tell you, I'm ecstatic to see all the faces, all the returnees, people from the past, people of our future. This is great, just to see the amount of tables and people here.
The old idea was that automation was going to help us have a leisure society, right? That it was going to help us not have to do drudgery work, that that's what the robots would do for us. But the more I see robots in capitalism, the more I just see of another way to scrape money off of workers. That's what it's been about.
We do claim to be a news site, and we are. We follow journalistic standards. We research our stories, we fact check them, we always call the people involved in our stories for comment. We do all the things that journalists do, but we are forthright in saying that we are doing this from a progressive lens.
Right, and we've seen exploitation then of those tempering for workers in the most egregious way. People who come in here and they do not have any of their rights afforded to them. They are at the mercy of their employer and they face horrendous abuse in that process. And they're basically in a powerless position.
You can have 35% of the vote and you're in opposition. You get 39% of the vote, you have a majority government. 4% of the vote makes all the difference. Well, is it surprising that parties are fighting tooth and nail all the time? This is a winner-take-all system, and it's winner-take-all fighting.
I want to start off today by talking a little bit about the challenges facing the forest industry and about ways that I think we could be approaching things differently in a way that would result in healthier forests, but also a healthier, more stable industry.
Because we do not want to be training the next generation of youth for jobs that don't exist or are going to be sunsetting. And we don't want to have educators who are developing curricula for jobs that no longer will exist. And as people look to the future of work, we need to understand how technology is going to impact those skill sets.
I don't mean to discourage anyone from forging those links with a progressive political party, but the difficulty is that very often a union that does that finds itself in a subservient position.
But I think that is one of the things that makes this a very complex topic, is just how many different forms of mental illness there are, how many different symptoms there can be, manifestations of it, and how each person experiences mental illness in their own way, just as with physical illness.
Indigenous peoples right now, at their lower stage, is that there's a smaller margin, and they do not want us talking to each other. That's why there's no educational reform. That is why you don't see it, and the reason is the premise was wrong to begin with. They said they dropped the Indigenous education portfolio, and I thought, your premise is wrong. It's education, not Indigenous education.
For Indigenous peoples also need protections, not only as individuals against harm and discrimination, but they also need protections as groups, especially in the area of cultural rights and land rights, and of course political self-determination.
Okay, this is a chance to get a real sense of the room, of what you're bringing here. Where do you think CCU needs to go next? And actually, here's a question. Do you want the friends that are kind of thinking about or here to observe to write down their thoughts as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So you're invited to actually think about with these people who you're sitting with.
So for us, right, we're often told that rights and security is a zero sum. We have to balance it out. We have to give up our rights in order to have security. But for us, the way we've seen it and the way that the rights system has established, it's not, rights haven't just appeared now. It's been centuries that people have fought for rights and have developed a system of what we see and what's come out especially in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
And the opening line of their constitution insisted that the working class and the employing class have nothing in common. Full stop, end of sentence. And it ended, instead of the conservative motto, a fair day's wage for a fair day's work, we must inscribe on our banner the revolutionary watchword, abolition of the wage system.
When basic research cuts the first pathways to medical breakthroughs, of the 210 medicines approved for market by the Food and Drug Administration between 2010 and 2016, every one originated in research conducted in government laboratories or in university labs, funded in large part by the National Institutes of Health.
The kinds of issues and challenges that we face today, that working people face today, that the labor movement faces today, can't really be dealt with using only the tools and the orientations that are attached to the traditional model of unionism that is really supported by the legal framework that we work within.
You know, this is the situation we're going to find ourselves in. And I think even among the Canadian business community now, there is a sense that we have gone too far in this kind of neoliberal direction of locking ourselves in to these kind of multiple restrictions and signing the same types of agreements, you know, with other countries.
I think this is really important too, and you may not realize it, but probably many of you in this room have received disclosures of sexual violence from your own members, and you haven't even realized it. You know, when people talk about domestic violence or maybe a divorce or, you know, a situation they're going through in their life that's difficult, they could be very well talking about sexual violence and you just don't know it. So one of the things I'm hoping is I can give you some tools and tips on how to receive a disclosure of sexual violence today and what to do with that information when you have it.